Don't make the same mistake that I did when I was buying my first home. In this video, you'll be watching the hidden cost of buying a home before and at the closing of a transaction. And as a bonus, I will be throwing a cost of home ownership. You definitely don't want to miss this. During and at the closing, there are costs and expenses such as inspection, deposit, cost of commute, and many other costs such as lawyer and notary fees, and biggest of all, taxes. So stay tuned. I'll be walking through a detail of these costs with you. Hi everyone, Axel Ziba here, managing broker and founder of Maxit Realty. And in this video, I wanted to share the mistake that I did not knowing any hidden costs when I purchased my first home. That was frustrating, and I'm sharing from the bottom of my heart, wanted to give you that knowledge so you don't make the same mistake. And that was one of the reasons that I came to this business, helping many home buyers just like yourself achieving high goals in real estate. I can see you have your pen and paper ready. Let's begin. For us to understand the expenses involved into owning a home as well into purchasing a home to begin with, let's split that into three different stages. The first stage is during the transaction. The second stage is the closing of that transaction. And lastly, the third stage is after the transaction, which you are a homeowner. For the first stage, the duration of the transaction, in addition to home price, you need to consider some other expenses, which is mostly unknown to many buyers. One is deposit. Deposit may vary city to city, country to country, and province to province. If you live in Vancouver, BC, it ranges somewhere from 5 to 10% based on your skills of negotiation. The other expense to consider during the process of a transaction is inspection, which can lead also toward different expenses. Now, inspection is a very important step and a great due diligence for you to understand the condition of the home. If you want to know more about the inspection, put the comment below and I'll be happy to share more information with you. Your inspector pretty much sees what you see, but with additional tool and expertise, they can guide you through understanding those conditions. If they see a patch in a wall, they can tell you what it is there for. They can test your plumbing, electricals, and many other things. But they also guide you toward other expenses, such as if they see a residual of mold, they will direct you toward mold expert companies to come and do the test for you. That could be an additional cost, which could be unknown depending on how much mold there is or how much vermiculite there is. Also consider oil tanks. Underground oil tanks are very familiar in every home prior to 1957. Also, in some homes, they're still existing and they need to be removed. So you need to have somebody come in and check that for you and do this scan. Consider of a few $100s for do a scan, which is digital. And if there is an oil tank, then the additional cost will come in. But also you can negotiate the cost of removal of the oil tank with the seller of the property. The other things you need to consider is perimeter drain. Every home needs to be checking their perimeter drain and maybe cleaning it up every 2 to 3 years. So maintaining that also requires a checkup. So for you as a home buyer, you need to make sure that's working properly. As you can see, inspection, it's not only somebody's going inside the home and test your plumbing and electricals. It also involves many other factors that can cost you further and further. But down the road, spending these money for your assurance, it is important. Another cost to consider is the cost of commute during viewing homes for this stage of a transaction. That can be costly if you're viewing homes at a part of a city that involves parking payments. So if you're viewing few homes and each home will take you half an hour to 45 minutes to view, you need to pay for those. So consider a budget for a parking as well. During the transaction, you need to also consider the cost of legal advisor. In most cases, you require a legal advisor to guide you for terms of a title review or any documentation or even strata documents review. There are certain companies such as law offices or maybe strata professionals that can guide you through study these documents and advise you. They charge for their fees, so definitely consider putting some money aside for their fees. We're at the closing stage, and in this stage there are expenses and costs involved that the home buyer needs to bear. These expenses are usually known as your closing cost. In some countries and cities, they're about 1% of the purchase price of your home. But every city and every province, they are different in terms of their taxation. So it is important to understand what type of a tax transfer fees you need to pay for closing, because that's not part of your mortgage and that cannot be part of your mortgage payments. Another expense to consider at the closing cost is the cost of a lawyer or your notary public to do your conveyancing. The cost varies based on transaction complexity. If, for instance, a mortgage is involved, then of course there is more labor and hours involved, so there will be more payment. You need to discuss and interview different law firms, different notary public, and understand what are the charges that they do. Third expense to consider in terms of a closing cost, it could be your mortgage fees. Make sure you speak with your mortgage advisor and understand exactly what are the fees involved into your mortgage. Number 4, closing costs to consider, it could be your appraisal fee. Many lenders, they don't cover that. And make sure you speak with your mortgage advisor, understanding what are the routine and how much they cost. To include more expenses at your closing cost, I can name a few. Your title insurance fee, annual property taxes. At the time of closing, you may have to pay a portion or all of it depending on the time and the date that you're purchasing your home. Relocation and moving fee. If you're moving into a strata, many stratas, they charge moving fee and possibly a deposit or even a fee for reserving an elevator. And another one to consider is the cost of your home insurance as a homeowner. And lastly, furnishing. When you're moving into a new home, whether it's smaller or bigger, you need to revamp your furnishing style and possibly add into those furniture. Now we're at the final stage, and that is your home ownership costs and expenses, which mostly is ongoing. Number 1 expense to consider is your annual property taxes. You have an option of paying the whole amount at the end of the year after receiving an invoice from a city. But the smarter way is to understand the total amount involved and split it by 12 and put the amount into your saving account, and at the end of the year, pay the amount and save the interest. Number 2 expense of home ownership that could occur is your strata and condo fees. Depending on the area, the amenities, and the complexity of the unit that you live in that building, the strata fees changes. Third cost, we spoke briefly about it, that's your homeowner's insurance. That will cover anything within your single family detached, whether you want to cover yourself for earthquake, vandalism, flood, or any other mishap that can happen to cover you for your insurance. If you're living in a strata, all you need is a content insurance. However, some stratas also require the amount of the deductible of the water damages or any amount of the deductible to be also covered by your private insurance. Another cost and expense to consider as homeowner is maintenance. You need to keep your home maintained to keep the value or even add on to it. On a monthly basis, put a budget aside. If you live in a strata, of course, they're charging you a strata fee for exterior of your unit. But for interior of it, put few $100s aside. So if you need to repair anything with the interior that a strata is not responsible for, you are covered. And in terms of single family detached, you definitely need to maintain your home more, including your exterior. That means landscaping, gardening, cleaning your gutter, and maintaining the roof. Maintenance of a home is very important. Consider a factory. Management of that factory, they maintain every equipment, so there will be less cost of a repair. If you maintain your home, there will be less cost to you. We are at the end of this video. Thanks for watching this. If I have missed any costs and expenses, please put in a comment so it can definitely add to the value for the people that are watching this. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It really encourages me to put more valuable information just like this one.